We'd like to welcome you to the first of two town hall meetings. We thank you for taking time to come out today to be hopefully more informed, and to remind you that next Tuesday, the second town hall meeting will take place at 5:30 at night. Any questions that come up later today that we don't have answers for will go automatically to next Tuesday's town hall meeting. The town hall meeting is being filmed. We would ask that you mute your phones if you can, including myself here. Amy, do we have a quorum?
We have a quorum.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to start over on my far left with the introduction of the board.
Joanne Deacon, Vice President.
Amy Horlock, Secretary.
Mary Ann Plummer, Director.
Walter Bowman, President.
Glenn Saylor, Treasurer.
Tom Bracken, Director.
Adele Mitchum, Director.
Kimberly Evans.
Jim Morgan, General Manager.
And I don't know whether Kara is in here or not. Okay. Thank you.
There she is. Walt, there she is.
Okay, there's Kara back there. I do believe that we have the pledge that is ready to go. Jake, are we ready for that? If you could go ahead and just rise. It's my understanding that the pledge will be played at this time.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a few very brief introductory remarks before we get started. I would hope that we can all take a deep breath and lower the temperature in the room. I think the byword for today is really civility. I think it's important that to stay away from attacks of personalities and character. Let's just keep it involved in terms of why we're here today. I came across an interesting article by Matthew McConaughey. He had very interesting things to say, and even on a day like today, he talked about happiness and joy. And I think that here in the colony, that's really what we're striving for. And he says that happiness is a response to what's happening to and around us, but joy comes from within. And then he had an interesting comment. He said, if you were to write the word joy with your non-dominant hand, you would still be able to see that it says joy. And then there's a very important thing that I read this morning. And this goes for the board, and this goes for all of you. Listening is an art and must be intentional. So I would encourage the board, we need to listen and to hear you. And I would say to you that you need to listen and hear our responses to the comments and the questions that you have sent to us. We are working together. We're not foes, we're not enemies. were members of the colony. Thank you. There's a couple of things to keep in mind as we go down the road here. We continue to try and separate budget. If you remember 2 years ago, approximately 2 years ago, when Jim Nash, who was then our treasurer, stood up, I believe it was in a budget workshop, where he said, as far as the budget goes, remember the pool pavilion wasn't even being talked about then, when he sort of said to us, and we had gone through a couple years where there had been no increases, and then we had a large increase, and he basically just said to us that his words of wisdom would be that we would need to take a look, by and large, for a $5 to $7 increase each year in the budget. And so those comments really are over there on that side of the ledger as it relates to the budget. What we're here today to talk about, though, is the pool pavilion plan. You will get an enormous amount of information today. One of the things that you'll hear, and everybody says, don't talk about the roof, talk about a patio cover. Regardless of how the vote comes out, there will be a new patio cover. And because of some of the liability issues with the concrete pad, which are verifiable, we have had both the exercise group and a dance group where some of our members have fallen due to the floor, the concrete pad, that's either cracked, uneven, or anything else. So when we do the patio cover, our plan is also to do the floor, which means in order to do the floor, the pillars, of course, will go. So when you hear different figures, just so you understand that when this is done, that those three parts will be done. And in essence, certainly there's a percentage, and I think Del mentioned about 33% of the project really is done. But I want to go back to the basic question, which I think somehow we lost sight of, and I will take the responsibility of having lost sight of it. When the question came, we basically said that since we have to do a patio cover, is this the time to consider in closing? A no vote means you don't want to consider it. So all the other stuff, your no vote is you don't want to consider it. A yes vote is you want to consider it. Now then we can get down to the crux of the matter after that, which will be you'll all be voting on. On the ballot, when it comes out May 1, we're going to do the ballot internally. We do not want to spend $6,500 going outside as we have to do for board elections. So we will be spending approximately $2,500 to do the ballot. We will make sure that we have election officials, probably our lawyer will be involved. And in the past, when the board was able to do it, we had people like Hal Accord and Shirley and some others. So we'll be putting a team together again, which will be dealing with that. But we want to let you know that the ballot will be handled in-house versus going outside at a very good savings. During some of the readings, you will hear the word duplicate. If you hear particularly Joanne and I say duplicate, it means we have already answered the question and we're not going to read the question again and re-answer it. So knowing that you'll be following along very carefully when you hear that, and you will hear that quite often, for instance, numerous times, probably 25 or 30 times, came up the question, what's the cost? So we're simply saying duplicate, it will have been answered, and you're going to see some slides in a couple of minutes. The format today is, in a couple of minutes, we're going to show some slides up here which will try to set the discussion. After that, Mary Ann and Amy will read all of the member comments. They will alternate reading all of the member comments. At the end of that, Glenn Saylor will read the 8 questions that were presented to us by the Finance Committee and the board response to those questions. After that, Joanne and I will take turns reading all of the member questions. We would anticipate that this will take probably at least the next 45 minutes, get us to 2 o'clock approximately. At that time, we'll take a 1-minute stand-up stretch. And then we will invite you, as you want, to come to the podium and address any questions, thoughts, or whatever you've heard. All we would ask is 2 things. If your question has already been answered, please don't come to the front and ask it again. Secondly, we would ask that when you come, recognizing that there may be a number of people that want to speak, that you would just present your question. If it can be answered, we will. If not, we will get an answer, as we said, and it will be presented next Tuesday night. With that having been said, I think I need to get out of the way, and I think we have some slides that are going to be presented here. So, Kara, are we ready for those, whoever has them? Probably see this as just one of the renderings. We did interchange renderings and drawings. You may be a little confused on that, but the board has interchanged those words all along. I'm sorry. You may realize that we have used often during the time the word renderings and drawings interchangeably. These are some of the renderings that were put out. There's a little bit of the drawing. At the end of the meeting, Jim Morgan does have some papers over here that you can come up and look at the drawings to get a better idea of what's there or not. Yes. This is looking down to the pool. Where are the slides? Here, do we have those slides? All right, here we are. Basically, the footprint is a 1,500 square foot multi-purpose building. The new outdoor patio solid shade structure to replace the existing shade structure. That's what we're talking about. No decision has been made until you all vote. There will be no permanent furniture for the interior. We have enough furniture. We are not buying new furniture. One inside restroom, when we say inside, if you look at the back side, there's a door, so the restroom is actually attached right to the outside of the building. It will not be part of the 1,500 square feet inside. The same for a storage area. It'll have a separate door. The storage area will be attached outside, will not be interfering with the 1,500 square feet inside. You see the audio, video equipment, Wi-Fi, surveillance camera, etc., and then accessible to the pool for special events. If you've seen the drawing, there will be an area that will go from the doors that would open up down through those gardens, which would be a paved concrete pad, to the pool. So during certain events, that gate at the bottom will be opened up and people can access, certainly during the day, particularly if kids are around, that gate would be closed so that nobody could go up and down. Next. This over here, the 380 is really what you'll be voting on when you get the ballot. That is the figure that we're asking for clearance out of the equity fund. All the rest of these figures are out of reserve. So those aren't, you're really not voting on those except to show you the total projected cost. But in essence, the 380 is what you're really will be voting on at that point in time. Thank you. Next slide. And these slides will be back up when Glenn does his part. We have the next slide, Diane. The difference of what you saw before. Diane, go back to the previous slide 1 second, if you would. You'll see a difference between this figure. Number 5 and 6. When we go to the next slide, this has been subtracted. Go to the next slide, Diane, please. And that's why you have this figure now, because those two figures have already been paid for. Okay, I think there's one more slide, Diane, is there not? One of the questions that was asked by the Finance Committee, and again, Glenn will go over that, is what is this building, if it's built, what is it going to cost a month to you, the residents? Annually. What it comes down to is each month, this building will cost you 57 cents per resident per month, or basically a stamp. That's what it's going to cost you if this is built. 57 cents a month per residence. 12 months, 57 cents, a cost of a stamp each month. Okay, I believe that's the slides that we have, and certainly we'll be able to. Oh, note number 1 here. There will be no additional staff added to maintain or manage the pool pavilion. And the second note, which is what I just said there, that's the cost, 57 cents per house per month. Okay, thank you, Diane. At this time, I would like to ask Amy and Mary Ann if they would commence reading the member comments.
Okay, comment number 1. Oh, I thought I heard something, I'm sorry. I feel that this new pool pavilion is not a good idea, and inasmuch as it won't cost the residents anything, there are no free lunches. Why can't we just replace the patio cover? I have been, excuse me, I need new glasses. I have been to many events in this area, and with heaters during the cooler months, it is lovely. I think it's lovely all year. The expense of enclosing it and adding a bathroom, to me, is outrageous. Was I supposed to tell the person, am I giving the name of the person that wrote this? Okay.
You can give the name.
We can still have get-togethers out there without it being enclosed, and so many of us feel that down the road, we will be assessed monies to add back to the reserve that we used for this building. Personally, I also feel that assessing the residents $3 at this particular time was a bad idea, as so many people are going through tough times financially. Maybe down the road would have been better, as I know we have expenses to meet, but not right now. And so many people are being required to do things to their homes to keep them updated, and that's costly as well. Raising the dues did not help matters, even though it was only $3 a month. That is from Judy Leibowitz on Via Malagas.
The next comment is from Michael Fry at 20558 Corte Albarra. Nice presentation, but you do need to listen to all the people and be transparent about the true costs now and into the future of this proposed pavilion. I sent a number of questions to be explored before spending almost $500,000 on another enclosed facility. You need to do an independent cost analysis on an enhanced open-air facility with a solid ceiling. Include ceiling fans and electric heaters for the warm, cool evenings, i.e., most of the touted amenities can be included in an open-air facility, not just a new roof. We live in California where the sun shines over 320 days a year. The savings for an open-air facility are significant and need to be offered to the residents. All the benefits noted in your pitch are the same for an open-air facility. HOA fees may not be impacted for the initial construction, but will be impacted in the coming years based on the major hole in the colony budget was a result of the $375,000 plus $80,000 as stated in the pitch today. A few years ago, the HOA spent thousands of dollars building the annex to accommodate more room for games, events, etc. Not sure that Pavilion will drive home sale prices. The market is hot now and the Pavilion does not exist. The market goes up and down. Pavilion will make no difference. HOA fees are one of the key factors in many folks' decision to buy in the colony. An established community hopefully maintains a low HOA fee due to great management. Also, you need to allow folks to comment online. The current sign-in only allows folks who have Google accounts. As stated, we live in California, so an open-air pavilion can use the same finance avenue as an enclosed building at significantly less money. The surplus helps reduce HOA fees increases. Also, taking from surplus will eventually impact HOA fees. If the HOA truly wants a fair judgment to be made on the pavilion effort, then the HOA needs to show the modified open-air option alongside the drawings of the pavilion. It appears to date that the HOA is biased to the pavilion and does not want alternative solutions which save money and time. Both a pavilion and open-air structure need to be displayed together so that residents see their true options along with cost differences. HOA budget paid for architectural drawings of the pavilion. HOA needs to do the same drawings for an open-air option. If support pillars are good, you can replace ceiling only and add aluminum top. If we need to extend for a patio, add similar support pillars. We do not need to make a standalone building. Keep as an outdoor covered shelter with ceiling fans. We need realistic estimates for above open shelter. Since an outdoor covered area does not need toilets, we save on plumbing costs. The feel-good benefits are not a reason to build a building. Outdoor venues have the same feel-good benefit. A real independent study needs to be made on this pavilion effort with all the real costs and impacts to colony budget and to HOA dues in the future by building an expensive building.
Question number 3 is from Karen Fritzsche on Corte Andar. Thank you all who participated in the pool pavilion video. Sharon Bowl and others are on point as how much an additional lovely space is needed to make certain all events open and private can take place and not create scheduling conflicts. I look forward to additional social events and the enhancement to our community. I vote yes. Please advise how to vote without attending the town hall meetings. Is it possible to have ballots available to drop into the white mailbox in front of the clubhouse? Thank you for all you do.
The next comment is from Denise Grohl, 24195 via Yano. I read Ed Selleck's email comments about the proposed project, but it didn't help me in supporting this project due to the following concerns. I agree that we could use some additional space, but where we put that space is a concern. In my opinion, it would have been nice had the board solicited ideas from all interested residents rather than a few prior to spending a lot of our money on renderings, etc. for the proposed project. Here are my questions, concerns about this project for the board to answer. I watched the video. On the video, Walt specifically said that they, quote, don't have all the answers, unquote, a concern. and that the city offers, quote, special concessions, unquote. But I only heard of a parking concession. Were there other concessions? What answers don't you have, and were there other concessions besides the parking issue given by the city of Murrieta for this proposed project? I'm all for a party, but it doesn't seem fair to those homeowners who will be adversely affected that haven't been given due consideration. Is that a possible concession that the city has approved, or a possible reason that the city may not approve the project with the votes? If the proposed building would hold approximately 80 people, where would the additional 70-plus wine club members be? Likely those additional wine club members would be outside, noisy, a concern realistically, and near the backyard of the neighboring properties. Ask yourself, would you want it, TGIF, wine club party, football games, movies, blaring in your backyard? I personally heard from a neighbor right behind the proposed project who hadn't heard about the project, and when hearing about it, stated that she was against it being built, quote, not in my backyard, unquote. Sound familiar? From what I can see, there is more than one option for creating such a project, and I feel that there has been no consideration given to the homeowners who will lose the privacy and views from their rear yards, not to mention the additional noise. In viewing the available areas around the main clubhouse, was consideration given to using the area where the current bocce ball games are played. There would be bathrooms nearby, and it appears to be a large enough area where a similar concept could be built. It would abut the golf course property, not homes, maybe disturbing a few golfers during the day hours, which, in my opinion, would be better than the peace and quiet of neighboring properties in the evening hours. Since many functions that are being referred to will be in the evenings, it wouldn't affect golfers or homeowners in the area near the golf course. A new bocce ball court could be constructed in a portion of the existing barbecue space with a new, less expensive wind sail type of patio cover for shade. An addition to the main building could be proposed for the vacated bocce ball space or the area near the existing fountain. I imagine that an add-on to the existing clubhouse could be less costly than an entirely new pavilion, while offering the same or similar amenities without requiring additional restrooms. Those are some of my thoughts and questions for the board regarding the proposed project. I'm opposed to the project primarily because of the effect it will have on existing homeowner properties, but also we don't know the true cost of this project. I haven't seen any blueprint plans, only a rendering, nor have we seen a broken down bid of the cost to build because they haven't received bids for the project. I don't think it's appropriate to ask for our approval for a project prior to seeing a blueprint of the project, as well as a breakdown of the cost for such a project. It doesn't make sense that a contractor won't bid on a project until they have homeowner approval. Something doesn't seem right with that explanation. To borrow someone else's line, seems like we're putting the cart before the horse.
The next question is from Rebecca, no street address and no last name. Seems we already have plenty of places with tables, chairs, and sofas, many of them unused during much of the day. Would love to see this pavilion designed for indoor, outdoor exercise classes, or at least furnished with modular, easy-to-move furniture. My view is that the colony needs a couple of studios for yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, and dance, ideally with mirrors along one wall. Newer communities we compete with to attract younger buyers already have them. The property values of all residents depend on whether or not we're viewed as an active 55-plus community.
The next comment is from Sean, no last name, 40553 Calle Galatia. How about we fix what we have first? Example, pickleball cracked courts, dilapidated bocce, lack of lighting at bocce, excess weeds in various areas along trails, put an aluminum shade structure over the bocce shuffleboard area, add a no golf parking in front of the clubhouse. All this would only be a small fraction of the cost of the pavilion. Also, enforce age restrictions in the colony. Stop allowing single addresses to request so-called visitor passes month to month. Also, security through the main gate. I've heard from various people that one only has to say that they will be golfing and they are waved right through. I have driven up in a rental car and said, quote, "I live here," unquote, and I was waved through without verification. Lots of weeds overgrowing at a few of the exercise locations along Walking Trail, and many very tall weeds along the decomposed granite path off Calle Galatia. Let's get these current issues in great condition first. Then let's get going on the pavilion, which will be very nice. I think once we get these and the other items I mentioned in proper comments addressed, then let's go for the pavilion. Thanks.
From Grover Long on Villa Llano, I would prefer to have the dues lowered. If this can be done without increasing dues, why can't the same logic be used to lower them? This reminds me of spending that is frequently done by our government. It will go over budget, and maintaining it will cause our dues to increase. I am adamantly opposed to this expansion.
The next comment is from Teresa Haggerty, 40225 Colony Drive. I am all for updating the pool pavilion. We have only been here since October 2020 and have not seen the clubhouse nor enjoyed all the amenities that other longtime residents talk about due to the pandemic. I believe that this community does need to keep up with the 55-plus active community lifestyle. I did not want to live in a retirement community yet. I hope the board would make good decisions for submittal to the residents so that we can vote with ease. With the longtime residents that choose not to participate in activities or cannot any longer, I have heard of the good times they had in the past. I'm looking forward to that good time and making this community active and pleasing for others to want to move here.
From Kathleen Ricketts on Via Ambiente. Instead of spending money to build a pool pavilion, a more cost-effective method of finding space for gatherings would be to provide proper equipment for the card players. Why not ask the card players what tables would be suitable for them and house the card and games in that card room? Numerous card players have voiced their dissatisfaction with the tables and chairs not being conducive for comfortable play. Another area to explore would be the scheduling times of the groups. Nearly every day, the clubhouse gatherings thin out around 4 p.m. Why not schedule beyond that time? If the time and day is not available, find another time when space is available. It is no different than when you schedule personal doctor, salon, etc. appointments, as you make a request and take what is available.
The next comment is from Maria Wargaki. It would have been nice if the board had taken different residents' ideas into consideration, and most importantly, from those that will be personally affected by the noise right there in their backyard.
That's the end.
Then there is one more comment from Daryl Hansen, 39994 via Xanthi. This comment is from Daryl Hansen in support of the pool pavilion project. My wife, Joyce, and I have resided in the colony since November of 2009, and I have been involved with the colony community governance since 2010 and 2011, when I served on 4 separate committees. In September of 2011, I was elected to the colony board and served as president from 2012 until 2015. I again served on the board in 2018 and 19 until my resignation in May of that year, because I felt having the ability to voice my views separate from the board would enable me to have more independence. I have not taken more opportunity to make those views known until the present, because I wanted to give the board and the members the ability to allow things to play out logically. Unfortunately, much to my exasperation, I have become aware of unwarranted negative comments and vitriol spewed at the board and this project. It appears this may have been occasioned by the lack of information, understanding, and/or appreciation of the board's duties to its members. In my over 11 years at the colony, it is my observation and belief that all boards, including the current board and the ones on which I served, have always taken seriously their duty to take such actions as the majority of the board believes are in the best interest of the members. That includes maintaining and improving the colony common areas to make sure they are in appropriate repair and make and propose such improvements as are reasonably necessary and appropriate to maintain the lifestyle and protect the value of the homeowner's interests. It is not to adhere to the interests of a vocal minority. It is not the duty of the board to keep dues low as possible, as some would believe. Nowhere in the United States, including the colony, do we live under a pure democracy where everyone is given a vote on everything and the popular vote always wins. Rather, we have a representative democracy, or democratic republic if you prefer, where the members here elect their board members who are entrusted with making the decisions in the best interests of the members under the provisions of the Davis-Sterling Act. You have done that, and it has served you well with a community that has superior amenities, very moderate dues, and a superior appearance. When appropriate, they have asked for member input. The colony is over 32 years old and it got tired over the years. During the time that I've lived here, despite significant challenges such as the astronomical increase in water costs resulting in the need to totally re-landscape the common areas to water-wise plantings and a host of other upgrade needs, such as the Clubhouse remodel, all of those things have been accomplished as a result of very conservative financial management and with very moderate dues increases. We live in a community with an excellent reputation, as can be seen by the quick sales and increasing home prices. The Pool Pavilion project is a prime example of how we are leading the pack while competing with newer projects such as Terramore, just up the freeway, 15 freeway. Think of this as your home and your community where pride of ownership is important. Most people I know who have lived in their homes for 20 to 30 years have felt it necessary and appropriate to remodel or upgrade their homes to increase their enjoyment and home values. Why should your ownership in the colony community be any different? Support the Pool Pavilion project.
At this time, I'm going to ask Glenn Saylor if he would read the questions that came from the Finance Committee to the board and our response. I might also add that next week, the Finance Committee and the board will be meeting together to further discuss any further questions and ideas.
Can we have that first slide, please? Excuse me, the one that says Pool Pavilion total cost construction. There it is. You should know that the Finance Committee met, and part of the charter of the Finance Committee is to provide financial information to the board. And we came up with 8 questions that should be answered by the board, which I will read and give you the responses from the board. They were sent to the board, and the board spent quite a few meetings going over and coming up with these numbers. We're trying to be as open as possible. We're going to give you these numbers. They're higher than you've heard before. There's no question about it, but we're trying to be fair so you know where we're going with this project. First question is, what are the total costs of the project going to be, including architectural drawings, city permits, reworking of the concrete, fencing, and landscape to the adjacent grounds, and other, quote, soft costs, such as inside furniture, flooring, window treatments, special electrical needs, and any other audio-visual equipment and the installation. If you look at this map, our response is, to date, we know the project has not been competitively bid, so we can't really give you a definitive cost, but the board has agreed that your vote, if you allow us to go ahead on this, whatever the contract comes in, it will not be, we will not approve anything over $380,000. That's what you're approving for the board to proceed with this process. This is strictly for the building. To date, the project has not been competitively bid, so we don't have a definitive cost for the project. However, the board did seek preliminary cost estimates from general contractors to establish a budget for the capital portion of this project and to disclose to the membership when seeking approval. Capital portion of the proposed project is highlighted in gray below. Note, the capital portion is the only amount the board is seeking membership approval for. You will see here, we are asking you to approve $380,000. Each of the other expenses that you see here, the patio concrete or paver deck is a reserve expense, and it's at $40,000. The patio shade structure is a reserve expense, and that too is at will be decided by the board authority, and that's $60,325. Landscape modification, reserve expense, board authority, $60,000. Pool metal fence modification, that would be the fence between this new building and of course the pool, because there will be an opening straight into the pool area, but there will be gates that they will be able to close. That is a reserve expense, and we're estimating $10,000. The design, construction documents, and the engineering has already been paid for, and that's $29,595. That was approved by the previous board. City of Murrieta plan check has already been paid for, and that's $1,644. City of Murrieta building permit fees, they actually reduced those to $6,635. We're including a project manager services. The board has decided that we need a special project manager for this. Our general manager just plain doesn't have the time to oversee this operation. That's a $19,000 expense. And the membership vote, which, as Walt mentioned, will be done in-house. We rejected a bid from one of the contractors from the past. It was $6,500. We decided to do that in-house for $2,500. And one thing that was not mentioned, that will be a 2-envelope system. They will be brought back here. They will be counted in open session. They won't even be touched. They won't be opened until people have the ability to view them. So that's the $2,500. And as they mentioned, there's no permanent furniture assigned to this building. We're not planning on buying any. They're going to be transporting the furniture from one area to the other. So the capital portion of this pool project is $380,000. The reserve portion of the pool pavilion project is $170,000. The permits were $6,635. The project manager's $19,000. The membership vote was $2,500, so that leaves us $578,135. Now this shows, up here you'll see it shows $609,000. This includes what we have already paid. But what I'm giving you now is things that we still need to pay. When this project is competitively bid, we anticipate the numbers will come in less than the budgeted amounts. We have no guarantees of that, but that's what we're anticipating. Capital equity portion of this project is to be budgeted at approximately $380,000. The reserve portion is $170,000 or less should the board resolve to budget a lesser reserve amount. That is your answer to question number 1. Number 2, what are the anticipated annual operating costs after the construction is completed, such as utilities, insurance, janitorial supplies, and additional staff hours for the maintenance? There will be no additional staff you may or may not know, we are down now and have been for several months 2 employees. So they did not fill those. Obviously, when we get up and running again, they will be rehiring 2 positions. So the response to the request for what are the costs for these different supplies, you see here on the board, utilities, and you should know that the electric will be connected to the Clubhouse electric and water meters, just as it is in the annex building. They've estimated approximately 3% of the applicable utilities and janitorial supply costs as the operational expenses related to the pool pavilion. And these estimate expenses are as follows. The utilities, you'll see, is $1,800 for electric, $300 for water, $2,000 for insurance, $480 for janitorial supplies, that being the paper, and $180 for janitorial supplies, which are chemicals. So the annual total of that would be $4,760. No additional staff will be added to maintain or manage the pool pavilion. The $4,760 ongoing cost represents approximately 25 cents per unit per month. Question number 3 from the Financial Committee. What will be the annual costs that we will need to be reserved for the maintenance of this building, such as painting, air conditioning repairs, roofing, and so forth? Well, we contacted the reserve study specialist, a gentleman by the name of Al Portune, and he's with the reserve specialty company. And he's estimated there would be a $6,000 increase in the recommended ideal contribution. This estimation covers the following: roofing, interior, exterior painting, and other treatments such as paneling, floor covering, lighting, exterior doors, restroom remodel, water heater, ceiling. You get the idea. Any final estimates and or projections should be based on the actual measurements and inventories after the completion of the construction. The $6,000 ongoing increase in reserves represents approximately 32 cents per unit per month. So I think what we've come up with was about 57 cents, or total of 57 cents per household per month for the everything that has to do with that building and the maintenance and supplies. Question number 3. Oh, excuse me, I just read that one. Question number 4. What other capital projects are in the pipeline for this coming fiscal year, such as the project proposed at the corner of Avenida, Florida, and Colony Drive? The landscape people, that's G53. And what will those costs be for construction, landscaping, maintenance, and reserve amounts? Will there be enough money to fund the second capital project, or will it need to be postponed? There is one partial capital project currently approved by the board, and that is that corner of Avenida, Florida, and Colony Drive. With that being stated, the board does not intend to allow any capital portions of this project to hinder the progress of the pool pavilion project. If there's a shortage of funds, those capital portions of that project may need to be put on hold. However, if there are ample funds to cover both, the board does not believe that there would be any reason to delay the capital portions of this project. That's the shade structure, the benches, and the trash can. Well, first of all, you should know there will not be a trash can on that property. There's one across the street. That was that $845 response we got through the Colony emailers. The Financial Committee, the Landscape Committee actually took that away. Question number 5. Since this building is not required for health or safety reasons, should the project proceed if the total cost, construction, maintenance, reserves are not currently available? And our response, of course, is no. Question number 6. What financial effect would proceeding with the pool pavilion project have on the association having sufficient funds that may be needed after the conclusion of the golf course litigation? For example, if the association acquired the fingers and slopes, or if the owner went back into possession and let the course go to weeds, or if the golf course was sold in bankruptcy to a third party, would there be sufficient funds available to deal with such financial contingencies to protect the value of the homes in the colony? The response: the association cannot acquire separate title to the fingers and slopes because they're not separate lots and cannot be divided away from the golf course property. This situation was created by the developer in the original subdivision map before the colony was eventually developed. The possibility of creating separate lots for the fingers and slopes was explored with our legal counsel and expert consultants years ago, before the lawsuit was filed by the golf course, and it was determined that it is impossible to create separate lots for the fingers and slopes. While the association has the right to enforce the CC&Rs and other recorded documents against the golf course, it's not the responsibility of the association to maintain the golf course, even if it falls into disrepair. The court appointed a receiver to carry out the obligations of the judgment that the owners of the golf course failed or refused to perform. The receiver is doing a good job in repairing and maintaining the golf course, but it'll take some time to fully comply with the judgment due to the years and years of neglect and deferred maintenance. The receiver's appointment is only temporary and will end when the court is satisfied that he has either completed his assignment to comply with the terms of the judgment or determines that it's impossible or impractical for him to fully comply. It is not financially feasible for the association to maintain funds in reserve or budget, for that matter, to maintain the golf course if it were to fall in disrepair in the future, again, from lack of maintenance by the owner. The association's ultimate remedy is the owner of the golf course again fails or refuses to maintain the golf course is to ask the court to foreclose on the golf course. In that case, third parties would bid on the golf course, and the winning bidder would be responsible to repair and maintain the golf course, not the association. The association cannot bid on or acquire the golf course through a foreclosure sale or otherwise without a vote of the members to approve the necessary amendments to the CC&Rs and to approve a special assessment to pay for the acquisition. The association is not permitted to spend assessment funds to maintain any property not owned by the association unless the members approve an amendment to the CC&Rs. Question number 7. Everybody get that response to 6? Question number 7. The generally accepted range in the industry of the association's safety net is 2 to 3 months of operating expenses. The colony has prided itself on maintaining a strong financial condition of 2.5 months of operating expenses. Has the board considered this issue? And what is the safety net range that the board is prepared to adopt because of this project? Yes, the board has considered the safety net amount to be maintained. However, it has not determined a specific amount. The board agrees that ranging between 2 and 3 months is a reasonable amount to maintain. The board's intent is to strive to maintain no less than 2 months safety net and no more than 3 months safety net at any given time. This would exclude the golf course settlement account funds. It's likely there will be times that the safety net amount will fluctuate between the 2 and 3 months. I'd like to interject something here that's not part of our normal procedure here, but it was my understanding about 5 years ago we had a zero homeowners equity fund. And when our former treasurer, Mr. Greg Meeks, came on board, he saw that that was a big problem and went after that. And we were able to bring that back up because of his initiative. So that's why we're now at 2.5. I guess there was supposed to be an industry standard between 2 and 3, but the board has not decided where we will be on that. Question number 8. What financial effect will this project have on future budgets if the safety net is lowered? Will that result in an increase in dues in fiscal year 2022-23 to build up the safety net if it's reduced below the 2.5 times the monthly expenses? Response. It's difficult to predict the future as it relates to our year-end financial outcome. Each year can bring the potential for a surplus or a shortfall. Over the past several years, the colony has performed well and has been fortunate to have a surplus of some amount at the end of each year. It is that very fact that is allowing the board to propose this project in the first place. The board's desire is to allow the safety net to increase back to the desired amount on its own.
Thank you, Glenn. At this time, Joanne and I will take turns reading the member questions.
Would you like a stand-up and stretch time?
If you want to stand up quickly and take a stretch, go ahead. We've been seating for about an hour. Let's just take 30 seconds. Go ahead and stretch and move around a little bit if you feel you need to. Get a little dry mouth? Get a little dry mouth while you read? There are a lot of questions here now. All right, if you go ahead and have a seat, please. We'd like to continue.
Okay. Are you doing even, or I'm doing even?
You're doing the odds, I'm doing the evens.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, please go ahead and have a seat. At this time, I'd like to ask Joanne to go ahead and begin with question number 1.
This is from Margaret Norville. How much money, if any, has already been spent to research this project? What was it spent on, and where did it come, in the budget, did it come from? The response is the $29,595 that you've seen. It was spent on the conceptual drawings and the construction plans, which includes the architectural and engineering costs. And $1,644 has been spent for plan check with the city. Those costs were expensed from reserve funds, and those costs were significantly reduced because of Jim Morgan's negotiation with the city. Next question, what will it cost to develop a plan to be presented to owners for a decision to build, and where in the budget will that come from? The above response covers that question. The plans have been completed and await permit fees to be paid and the selection of a general contractor to complete the project. Those contractors require that members have approved this before they will answer RFPs from us. What is the total cost estimate for the proposed construction project? The board is proposing to the members that it approve a $380,000 budget for the capital portion of this project, which consists of the building itself. Exterior portions of this project, the shade structure, the concrete patio, the landscaping, the metal fencing adjacent to the pool, will be covered from our reserves, and they are fully funded at this point. Approval of the reserve portion of the project is within the board's authority and will not be part of the membership vote. Next question, of the estimated cost, how much is available from the reserve budget? We have identified approximately $170,000 that will come from the reserves. Concrete, $40,000, patio shade structure, $60,000, landscape, $60,000, pool metal fence, $10,000. That comes to $170,000, and which will be spent regardless of the vote. Is it true that the remodel of the clubhouse ended up being double the original budget? What guarantee will there be to keep this project on budget? In the last board meeting, I went over all of those costs from that remodel, and I hope that you saw that. Response is no, the board will rely on its project manager to keep the project within budget. Next question, what is the anticipated time for each segment of the project to be completed? Proposal, approval, and construction. May 2021, ballots will be mailed out. June 2021, voter determination. August, September 2021, if approved, the construction will begin, and April 2022 would be a grand opening, so that's approximately a year from now. Question, once the construction starts, how will facility access and disruption affect use of the public areas, the parking, the clubhouse, the pool, courts, noise, and dust? The access to the clubhouse will not be affected by the construction. A limited number of parking spaces may be utilized by the construction company. Construction will affect access to the annex area, as is the general contractor's access point to that site as well. And all the utilities will be installed using the corridor between the clubhouse and the annex.
The next set of questions comes from Linda Wenke. Will all questions and answers be published with the ballots so that those do not have access to e-blast, county email would be apprised of the questions and answers so they can make an informed decision? The response is no. The next question is a duplicate. The next question after that is a duplicate. Next question from Linda. Will there be direct access to the pool? Right now there's a fence between the patio and the pool and the cost. The response, the plan for the proposed pavilion has direct access gates to the pool. The cost will be a reserve expenditure. The gates will remain closed unless there is an event that requires the areas to be joined together. Question, exactly what kind of activities will be utilized in the new room? Various community events such as, question mark. Will we get our bang for the buck? We certainly have not for the annex, which I believe is underutilized because residents don't like it. Except for ping pong players, card players dislike it very much. That is why they play in the hallway, atrium, and lounge, so that no one else can use the lounge and atrium. Response, the association activities director will work with the social committee and clubs to provide events and activities to meet the needs and desires of the community. Question, have residents that live right next to the anticipated pool pavilion given their approval? Live entertainment, Thirsty Thursdays, TGIF with live entertainment will certainly affect their lifestyle. When Lot 221 was suggested to be a tennis court, residents living in the Lot 221 were asked for approval. They did not approve the tennis court. Response, the Board of Directors intends to take the concerns of all residents into consideration. Earlier today, Tom Bracken and I met. One of the things that we wanted to do was to begin to look at whether the building is or isn't built. We wanted to begin to take a look at the questions that have arisen of the houses that are on Corte Cordova. We have come up with 9 solutions, correct, Tom? That we have agreed on, and as we get closer to whatever's going to happen, whatever we do will be in a final resolution of the board and will be ironclad as relating to decibel levels, noise levels, shutdown time, and all the other factors. I want to thank Tom Bracken for taking time today to meet with me as we consider the concerns of the approximately 25 houses in that area, and I'm pleased to report that we've made significant progress to answering a lot of those questions. Question. According to the April 2021 Colony News, page 9, as of December 31, 2020, our owner's equity is $1,632,000. Our current year ends April 30th, 2021. So this figure will change. It seems strange to me that it is only $75,000 since the previous year is our pandemic year, the clubhouse was closed, and the $75,000 surplus is for 9 months. Our actuals are only $75,000 underrun to our budget year. I have a hard time believing this. Earlier, Glenn read in question number 7 about the whole 2 to 3%, and as he mentioned that really the board right now is somewhere in that 2.5%. So again, you can go back and refer to that at that point.
If I can add something to that, I think I brought something up at a board meeting earlier. For every dollar that we saved in not having to have the electricity on in this room because the room wasn't used, we had to spend that dollar on cleaning costs because of the enormous amount of cleaning that the state required be done. So while we saved some on utilities, we spent more on cleaning. So you would hope that, you know, we would have saved a lot of money that way, but the cleaning costs were outrageous for what we had to do.
Next question, again, continues with Linda Winkies. Why was there a dues increase this year when you want to spend surplus money from prior year's budget underrides what you call equity? Why isn't the equity surplus applied to the current year's budget every year so there will not be a dues increase? Or is it only a slush fund to do special projects? We were told we needed 3 months. We were told we needed 3 months owner equity for earthquakes, disasters equal to 3 months of budget. Is $1,557,000 equal to 3 months budget? If it's over, should excess be returned to the residents? It is, after all, our dues money. Will any excess be returned or dues lowered? If it is not equal to 3 months budget, should we be spending the equity on a pool pavilion so the equity fund will be less than the 3 months budget? Then we can have another dues increase. Response. Even though some of the common area facilities have been closed as a result of the government orders, the association continues to maintain and care for all the common facilities by paying utilities, insurance premiums, management expenses, maintenance expenses. The association must continue to fulfill those obligations, whether the facilities are used or not. In addition, the cost for cleaning and sanitizing those facilities, which are open, is much higher than originally budgeted. Any savings which might result from the closure of some of the common area facilities will be reflected in the next year's budget. Then we have a duplicate question. Next question. Why won't residents of Cordova be asked if they want the pool pavilion in their backyard? There are 25 houses. They asked residents of Lot 221 if they want it. Response. The Board of Directors intends to take the concerns of all residents into consideration. Then we have 3 duplicate questions. Next question. What is to prevent this project budget will not override? What kind of oversight will it be? Response. The board will rely on its projected manager to keep the project within budget. The next question is duplicate. Next question. Can the storage in half the annex be removed to an outside storage unit? When we didn't have the annex, we put the round tables in the storage spot in the auditorium. They are now stored in the annex. The answer is no. Question. Can half that is now storage in the annex be carpeted and used for card games? The response is no. There's no windows, there's no air.
Can I answer something else too? If you look in the back of that auditorium, it used to be filled with all those tables and all those chairs piled up there, and it cut down the amount of space we had for residents to use this facility. So storing them out there was a good solution. And that room that storage was originally designated to be storage when that facility was built. There are no windows, no air, no heating, no carpet. It's not for human consumption.
For those that may not have been here, that annex is 900 square feet. 300 square feet was for storage, 600 square feet for other usable space. Question, having used portable partitions in the auditorium to split up for multiple card games been considered? Response, it has been considered and proven not to be a viable resolution for the need of additional space.
Question from Paula Thomas. How much money would be out of reserves and how much would be left in the reserves? The total amount to be expensed out of reserves is undetermined at this time. There are many potential reserve-related items that are related expenses that are unrelated to this project that we are still evaluating whether or not actual replacement is required this year. The total cannot be determined until the end of the fiscal year. With that being stated, the board has identified approximately $170,000 that could be expensed from reserves for the legitimate reserve portions of this project. Money comes out of reserves and we spend that almost every day, and every month a portion of your dues goes into that reserve to replenish it.
Next questions came from Ron Block. The first question is a duplicate. Next question, given the clubhouse upgrade was over budget, what guarantee do we have that we won't have a similar issue with the pool pavilion? Is there any chance the cost will eventually be more than the amount that is improved? Question, we are being given the impression that the pool project will not cost the residents anything. This is obviously not true. If the equity fund is depleted because of the project, won't our assessments be increased next year to replenish the fund? Response, the equity fund will not be depleted. It will maintain a minimum of 2 months operating expenses. Question, we are being told that if we don't approve the pool project, there will be a surplus in the equity fund and some portion of the fund will be returned to the residents. If this is true, why are assessments being increased by $3 starting in May? Why wasn't $60,000, the approximate amount collected by the $3 increase, transferred from the overfunded equity fund? What is the basis for the $3 increase? Response, the Colony Finance Committee held 2 meetings, the budget workshop and a town hall meeting to explain to the board as well as the community why they were recommending a $3 increase in the 21-22 budget. Those videos are available on the Colony website and under the board meetings. Question, if approved, can we get regular updates on the progress of the project, including ongoing updates on money spent? Can we also get a final total of the cost and how they compare to the approved amount? Response, yes.
The next 4 questions are from David Wu, and they've all been previously answered.
Then from Susan Cernero, comment, I am supportive of actions that preserve and increase property values since I know from experience that the colony is perceived to be going downhill. I purchased here because I feel it is worth investing in the future improvements, the golf course being one. I look forward to seeing and hearing more about the pavilion. Question, who initiated the project? President Keith Manley and the then board under his leadership. Who designed it? Kirchhoff designed and drafting. Question, who provided the cost estimates? The board received cost estimates from 3 general contractors for budgeting purposes only. Next question was a duplicate. Next question, how was it determined that this would be prioritized ahead of other colony improvements? Response, projects are approved by the board of directors. The board made the determination. Question, regarding the cost, how can reserves be utilized to cover the cost without risking future expenses? Response, reserves are used to replace existing equipment. There will be an ongoing impact to reserve contributions by an estimated $6,000 annually. Question, what other sources of funding have been identified and dismissed? Response, there has not been any other source of income identified or dismissed.
Next questions are from John Knight. What will the pavilion allow us to do that we can't do now? The pavilion will allow residents to have an additional indoor-outdoor space to use year-round. Question, are there activities where the auditorium is too large but the annex is too small? There are many events where the auditorium is too large, yet the annex is too small. The annex will only seat approximately 30 people in the dining setting and is not preferred due to its isolated location. I've been in that annex, I'm sorry, but it's darker than heck in there, and you just feel like you're kind of closed in. I think that's why people just don't want to use it. What percentage of the time is the auditorium being used, or what percentage is it idle? The auditorium typically hosts 30 individual reservations per week. These reservations consist of daily exercise, dance classes, large club events, luncheons, dinners, movies, live entertainment, and bingo.
Next question comes from Diane Schultz. First question was a duplicate. Second question was a duplicate. Question, is this really necessary as we have many other places, including the auditorium, which doesn't seem to be at full usage for people to meet and to have various gatherings? Response, this space is an added amenity to the community, which will offer access to indoor-outdoor venue and take place of the current facility, which is rarely used.
The next series of questions come from Jane Payne. Is the furniture in the room movable so the entire area can be devoted to exercise? The board intends to utilize the pavilion as a multi-purpose facility. We do not intend to purchase permanent furniture for the space. How does this room compare to the annex, I was told by them that the annex is said to be 900 square feet, and this is 1,500 square feet. The pavilion will include a large retractable door, which will allow for direct access to the covered patio and pool area. It will also include audio-visual connections similar to the lounge and auditorium. Her numbers were right, 900 for the annex and 1,500 for the pool pavilion.
I thought the 900 included the storage, it's only 600 for the room.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's the overall, it's
The overall
900,
is
but
900.
yes, it's 300 and 600.
Meeting area.
Yeah. Will one wall probably opposite the glass door be mirrored? In addition to being good for exercise, it would make a large room more spacious. Mirrored walls were considered when planning the building, but due to the concern of soundproofing, the board felt it was more appropriate to include acoustic treatment on the walls rather than mirrors. Question, I think several groups, Tai Chi, yoga, so forth, would love it and would also allow us to get into other activities that the younger residents would enjoy, like Pilates and dance and so forth. We intend to utilize the space for as many different activities as it will allow. Last question, will the room have movable partitions so the room can be turned into two for smaller meetings? Partitions were considered while planning for the building, but due to the large retractable doors, we were not able to accommodate the partition.
Next questions came from Rebecca. The first one was a duplicate.
I can't turn the page. Okay. The next questions are from Brenda Sindorf. Doesn't stipulating the contractor's vendors must absorb costs above bid prices simply mean bids will be overstated 10 to 20% with no benefit to the colony? The pavilion contractor will be responsible for anything and everything that is included on the working drawings and identified in the contract between the association and the general contractor. The board does intend on including a 10 to 20% contingency amount for unforeseen expenses, which we do on all contracts that we write. This contingency amount will be within the $380,000 budget amount if approved by the membership. Next question, you say that no extra staff will be necessary. Does this mean that you will have current staff working 10-hour days? No, staff will maintain their regular 40-hour work week schedule.
Next questions come from Tom Bracken. According to the videos, the price of my house is going to go up. The building is going to be right behind the houses on Corte Cordova Street. Response, as the pavilion is considered an additional amenity, which will improve our residents' experience here in the colony, we believe this will have a positive impact on our property values as a whole. Question, if we must abide by the rules of the colony to keep the noise level down and not be a nuisance to our neighbors, the colony should also. Response, we agree. Question, how does a colony get to break rules to have concerts and bands and wild parties? Response, The rules and regulations will be adhered to. The board may request additional regulations to ensure that there is a quiet enjoyment for all. And I previously mentioned that Tom and I met before today to hammer out some beginning guidelines. Next question is a duplicate. Next question is a duplicate.
The next questions come from Greg Meeks. Question, why, if it can be determined additional space is needed for community events, can't space be created with mobile partitions in the clubhouse? Mobile partitions do not offer privacy or sound control residents require for events other than card groups. Why in the pavilion area, the barbecue area, are we unable to have Thirsty Thursday happy hour Fridays with live entertainment by simply putting up a new roof and new furniture? Response, the current barbecue is available for these types of events now and does get used that way, but does not provide a comfortable environment away from the elements. The barbecue area was only reserved on less than 50 occasions in 1 year before the COVID pandemic. As stated earlier, the auditorium is typically booked 30 times in 1 week. Do you agree with the statement? The next one's a duplicate. And after that, it's, do you agree with the statement made by President Bowman that not a dime of your money will be used to finance the pavilion, when in fact the homeowner's equity are community funds? The statement made was that there would be no special assessment or dues increase to build the pavilion. The board maintains that position. Last question, given that President Bowman's statement on April 5th, 2021, that a yes vote will permit the board to get bids on pavilion costs that are now estimates and move forward with construction, renderings do not even show restrooms, kitchen, heating, and air conditioning units. Isn't a yes vote giving the board a blank check? A yes vote will allow the board to seek competitive bids. Should the bids come back over the budgeted amount, the board will not proceed any further with the pavilion project other than what we've already stated. The building of the, rebuilding of the roof, the cement. It's not a roof, what is it, a covered something or other? The cement and removing the pavilion,
The next questions come from Hester Dove. If approved, will the pavilion only be for the use of clubs and groups who seem to get priority or reservations? Response, all residents will have access to the pool pavilion. Question, will a colony resident be able to reserve or use the area for just a social meeting with friends without belonging to a group? Response, the colony amenities are for the use of all of the residents. If the pavilion is not booked for use by a colony function, residents may use the facility with their guests on a first-come, first-served basis. Question, what are the names of those vendors and their connection to a completed pavilion, and would they agree to pay for all budget expenses? How would it benefit them? Response, we currently do not have vendors connected to the project. The board will not go out to bid unless the community votes in the affirmative. Question, with the addition of the fountain, bar, television, restroom, how much will this limit the proposed occupancy space? Would it not reduce the usable people, table, chairs space? The usable space will remain at 1,500 square feet.
The next questions are from Andrew Siaka. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that correctly. My apologies. The first three are duplicate. The next one is, how about a critical path schedule? The project manager and the general contractor will provide a critical path schedule. What's the projected yearly property tax increase for the project? How about monthly utility fees? And finally, projected monthly reserve fund contribution from member monthly HOA fees. The association is exempt from property tax. All of our buildings are. The estimated cost for utilities, insurance, and janitorial supplies is approximately $10,760 annually, which is the 57 cents or a postage stamp per month per house. What happens if there is a low voter turnout? Let's say less than 794 votes. Will that end the project, postpone the vote for another election, or another approach? On June 1st, 2021, the votes will be tabulated, and the voting process will be over at that time.
Let me mention that the board did agree the other day that even if on June 1st it's short one vote, it's over and done with. There will be no waiting an hour, there'll be no going out collecting a vote. The vote is over once the count is made in front of everybody.
However, the construction that we mentioned, that includes the cement and removing the pillars and the covering, will still happen.
Next one is from Maria Wargecki. Question: why aren't we given other option to consider for creating such a project? Response: the board assumes the responsibility to bring viable projects and options to the community. Question: golfing doesn't take place in the evenings, and no residents would be affected with all the noise generated from such activity as Thursdays, TGIF, wine club, and others. Why not use the bocce ball area with the huge advantage of having bathrooms nearby? The bocce ball court could be built in a different place. Response: the city would require additional parking if additional square footage was added to the clubhouse footprint. Because the barbecue area was already included as a gathering area in the city's calculation for parking, additional spaces were not required for this project.
Next questions are from Pam Bliss. First two are duplicate. Third one, would you please clear up some confusion since homeowners have been told several different stories on exactly what the city and fire department will allow for maximum capacity of this 1,500 square foot building. The 1,500 square foot building will have a 100-person maximum capacity. We had guessed about 80, but in officially checking, it is 100.
Next questions come from Terry Thatcher. The first two are duplicate. Question: Terramore is not a community like the Colony, so it is misleading to use it as an example. The new Atlas in Beaumont is and has an example of a multi-use outdoor space that can be converted to an indoor space with almost the same footprint that we have if built as an extension off the atrium for a lot less money and still give consideration to the surrounding homes. Why isn't this a perfect option? Response: there are many properties that have indoor and outdoor pavilions.
Next one comes from Sharon Evans for the Colony Wine Club. Where will the bathroom be located? The restroom will be located inside the pavilion, but outside the 1,500 square foot footprint. That does not mean that you have to go outside the buildings to go to the bathroom. It means that the door is inside, but the building itself juts out for the restroom. Will there be storage space in the new pavilion? Same answer. There is a storage space right next to the restroom. Is it likely the door configuration is set and cannot be modified? However, can the side doors be modified to allow easier access to the barbecue and outdoor atrium? It is likely the door configuration is set and cannot be modified. However, some modifications can be made to the outside patio area that may solve those concerns. The next question is, what is the seating capacity for the following events? For a sit-down dinner, it's 80 people, 8 tables of 10. For cabaret seating, it will seat 80 people, 8 tables of 10. Theater seating, 100 people. Poker tournament, wow, okay, 72 people, 9 tables of 8. Exercise class, 30 people. Memorial service, 80 people, 8 tables for 10. Next one is a duplicate. Can the pool gates remain open during an event? The pool gates may be left open during events where it is needed. However, they will have to remain closed during normal use to comply with Riverside County health and safety rules. If there is an event in the auditorium and pool pavilion at the same time, can we share the kitchen? Why can't there be a small corner kitchen like at Terramore in the pavilion? Response is yes, we can share the kitchen. Wouldn't it be more cost-effective to replace the existing structure with an aluma wood patio cover tall enough to allow heaters and fans, build a beautiful outdoor kitchen, and the deck to encompass the patio area outside the atrium? The board believes that the space would remain underutilized as it is today if it does not offer indoor-outdoor options?
The next question comes from Mary Detmers, which is a duplicate.
Next question is from Tom Teets. What furniture will be included in price of pool pavilion, tables, chairs, and lounges? There will be no permanent furniture purchased for the building. In the renderings, you saw furniture. That was just an artist's rendering. The indoor portion is intended for multi-purpose use. We already have tables and chairs for the existing patio area, so that furniture will be utilized for this project and replaced by reserve funds when it needs to be replaced.
The next set of questions came in late in the week, so we're going to go to those now. The first ones come from Pam Villis, and I'll ask Joanne to start.
First, we are told that there are plans for the pool pavilion. Then when the board is questioned about the plans not showing restrooms, we are told that there are no plans, just renderings. Now in the April 15th general session, we are told that there are plans, and if the residents vote to approve the pool pavilion, the plans will be sent out to obtain bids. So which is it? Are there plans or not? If so, why haven't they been sent out for bids so that the HOA is not wasting money in printing and mailing out ballots, then opening and counting them, if there is a chance that all bids are well over the $380,000? Shouldn't the bids be obtained prior to spending money on ballots? Renderings and plans have been used interchangeably. The board decided not to seek formal competitive bids, called RFPs, at this time because it had been determined that there would be a vote of the membership and general contractors would be less likely to participate in the bidding, knowing that the community vote was still pending.
Next questions come from Jerry and Audrey Grummett. Question: in the video, the treasurer said no increase in dues or a special assessment at this time. What does that mean? Are we going to have an increase or an assessment in the future? The answer is no. Comment: now does not seem the best time to be doing a building since the cost of lumber over the last 3 or 4 months has increased by approximately 123% and increasing daily according to construction companies. Seems the estimate they receive for the project cannot be accurate. Don't know how any construction company would be able to give an accurate estimate of the cost at this time. How many people are going to come back and use the clubhouse once it does reopen after not going to it for multiple times over the past? As for the weekend use that a couple of people on the video mentioned, we have gone to the clubhouse numerous times on Saturdays and maybe seen 4 to 6 people, and on Sundays, no one else at all. We do agree that it may be a good concept for the future, but does not now seem to be the right time to do this project.
Since these came in at the last minute, you'll see a mixture of comments and questions. This one is a comment from Don Waddell. We are being asked to allow our board to pursue the possible building of a pool pavilion. We have seen and heard several comments about why we should vote yes, but have not seen or heard anything that would encourage a no vote. I do not understand how our residents can be expected to make an educated decision without having information from both sides. Also, the money that would be used will have to be replaced somehow. Our HOA dues took a huge jump after the clubhouse was upgraded. I do not see how this project will be any different. These are comments again, there are no questions.
Next question comes from Kathleen Ricketts. We have already spent almost $30,000 on the pavilion building. Does this mean the bid price will have to be under $350, $380 minus the $30? The budget the board is seeking approval from the membership is for the capital portion of the project and is $380,000.
Next comment is from Susan Turner. Questions regarding the pool pavilion. Yesterday it was said that if the new bids estimates come in over the projected $380,000, the project would be scrapped. Costs are rising at an alarming rate. Kitchen cabinet providers are saying costs will rise up to 30%. I was told all lumber has risen 15 to 30%. It seems likely that any estimates provided a year ago will be substantially more. I'm in favor of the expansion and improvement, but it seems a waste of time to discuss it if it will cost more than the old estimate.
Next question comes from Betty Betzing. It comes as a comment. First of all, why didn't the management company contact the residents on Corte Cordova about the blunt of the noise level? The colony wants to have bands, parties, concerts, and karaoke, etc. Why can't we enjoy the peace and quiet like the rest of the community? I live right behind the pool pavilion, only 55 feet away from the noise. I'm a 96-year-old woman. I was a World War II Navy nurse. I deserve my peace and quiet in my home in the final years. Four doors down on the right side of the street is another retired Marine who spent over 30 years in the service to protect our country. On the left side of the street is another retired Marine who served in Vietnam and other places, who has 30 plus years in the service. Don't they deserve the peace and quiet in the community where they live? The colony built the clubhouse, which has soundproofing for those reasons, to help the residents, especially the residents who live on Corte Cordova, to have a peaceful experience. The average age of the people that live on Corte Cordova is 84 years of age.
The next ones are from anonymous, and we don't read anonymous questions or comments.
Next question comes from Carol Strutt. It's a duplicate.
Next one is from Terry Thatcher. First one is a duplicate. Second one, the auditorium was built for large noisy social events. Will the pool pavilion be built soundproof? The pool pavilion will have acoustic treatments similar to what is installed in the lounge and the annex building. Question, how much is the high-tech stuff to be in the building going to cost? It is included in the projected $380,000 budget amount. Next question is a duplicate, and the next one is a duplicate.
From Andy again, the question is a duplicate.
Paul Nelson, first one is a duplicate. Second question, I have read in the Colony News that Associa is looking at additional office space, but there are assurances that no offices will be placed in the new building. I see this as a shuffling the dominoes effect. Space taken by Associa will displace homeowner use and send the homeowners out to the pool pavilion and allow Associa the space for their offices. Of course, one might ask why Associa needs more office space given the number of homeowners has not increased in the last 15 years. There will be no HOA offices located in the pool pavilion. It is a vacant square, oblong building. There is nothing else in it. Next one is a duplicate. Next one, there is a big screen TV in the clubhouse now that I rarely see being used, so why do we need another? Response, the audio-visual equipment proposed for the pool pavilion are intended to provide the maximum options for activities and events requiring electronic technology. It is not intended to serve as a casual sitting area for watching television.
Next question comes from Bruce Hartwick. Does the $380,000 funding from equity plus funding provided by the reserve cover all of the costs for the pool pavilion, including furniture, electronics, etc.? If not, how much additional will the cost be? Yes, however, there will be no permanent furniture purchased for the interior of the building. It is intended to be a multi-purpose building. There will be tables and chairs under the outside stage structure as there is currently in this area.
Next question from Brian and Deborah Gould. It was said the cement pad is uneven. We walked it and did not see any area that was more than a 1/4 inch uprising, which is the amount that is considered to be unsafe. Response, the board intends on replacing the concrete patio when the shade structure is replaced. This will be done whether the pool pavilion is approved by the membership or not. It is being done as part of the association's risk management efforts. It was stated that the roof would only hold up temporary iron framework. There is just one 8-foot section being held up with temporary framework, which is repairable. Response, there are several sections of the existing structure that are deteriorating from dry rot. Question, numerous times it was called a roof, when in fact it is a trellis. Calling it a roof is very misleading because when you say it was falling in, it implies that it is leaking. The board never said that the shade structure leaked. As mentioned, the shade structure is deteriorating and will be replaced regardless. Next one is a duplicate. Last question. Having an enclosed pavilion is premature when you consider we are not even allowed to have our grandchildren or guests at the outdoor pool. It was said that to attend the meeting inside on April 20th, you need proof of vaccination or a 72-hour negative COVID test. How can you legally require this without discriminating against those who choose not to be vaccinated or have had COVID or test positive for antibodies? This is a private community with due paying members, not a public event. It is discriminating and offensive to force those who choose not to have a vaccine outside while allowing vaccinated residents inside. These regulations are mandated by the state of California, and I have with me my negative test within the last 72 hours.
Next question comes from Kathy Buys. What is the cost of printing, mailing, and counting the ballots to approve or deny? The election will be done in-house at a cost of $2,500.
Question again from Greg Meeks. Given the following Finance Committee information at the April 15th, 2021 board meeting, which I have modified for the land on the balance sheet, where is the available homeowners' equity to fund a building cost of $380,000? Homeowners, and he has some numbers that were in the April 15th board meeting. Response: the board has very carefully considered the safety net amount to be maintained. However, it has not determined a specific amount. The board agrees that ranging between 2 and 3 months is a reasonable amount to maintain. The board's intent is to maintain no less than 2 months safety net and no more than 3 months safety net at any given time. This would exclude the golf course settlement account funds. It is likely there will be times that the safety net amount will fluctuate between the 2 and 3 months as it has in the past.
And then earlier today, Amy Horlock did read Darrell Hansen's comment. That concludes the member questions that we have received. At this time, we would entertain anybody that would like to come to the microphone. We would ask that you just give your name. If you've already got a question that's been answered, please don't ask it. Keith Manley.
I have a couple of comments, Walt, that I'd like to make. One, I want to remind the people in the audience who are watching this presentation that the board does not get paid for any of the time and effort that they put into this. And I want to compliment the board on a job well done so far, that what we've heard. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. You've answered two of my questions that I had. One was a contingency fee that was identified later on as being 10 to 15% in the $380,000. And the other one was the project manager who will be reporting, I understand, to the general manager. But my third comment has to do with, if you haven't considered it already, I would recommend that you might consider this, and that is to make an oversight committee made up of some of the members of the board to follow the progress of the pavilion once it's approved and its financial status, and report on that.
That's an excellent idea. Thank you, Keith, for bringing that to us.
Yes, my name is Darrell Hansen. I live at 39994 Via Xanthe, and I want to comment on a couple things that were covered, but not deeply enough, I suppose. One of the things that bothers me about a lot of the comments, I'm not on calling emailers, by the way, because my blood pressure wouldn't stand it, but I hear what's going on, and I hear a lot of other things, and it bothers me because, unfortunately, while these people may be well-meaning, much of what they say is basically incorrect, factually. Number two, the information that they want, they could get by themselves, and they're not getting it. And secondly, or thirdly, there's so much background to this that people do not understand that it bothers me that it's, in the context of the true facts, It's illogical. Now, we can differ in opinions, but I will give you a couple examples, and then I will leave. Number one, on the issue of the objections to the trash can on G53, penny wise, pound foolish, petty, whatever you want to call it, it just doesn't make any sense. You're gonna have a place where people are going to congregate, and then you're gonna say, but if you got trash, you got to go across the street and put it in there. That just leaves the temptation to, well, some of us will put it in our pocket and then walk across the street, but most people, their inclination is, and you walk behind dogs, you'll find that, is just to dump it. And so for us, I mean, okay, I don't know whether 800 and some bucks is appropriate, but certainly a trash can there is appropriate, particularly given the fact that it's an assembly area, for goodness sakes. And then number two, on the issue of the use of the barbecue area and the trellis, if you haven't been, see, a lot of times people are just basing it on their perception, not reality. If you have been in there, you'll find out that there are many deficiencies. Number one, when the developer built that, they only built half of it, and because it was unusable, you had to build another half, but the first half only was structurally designed to take that part, and so you had to put those pylons in there, which took away usable space. And I've been out there many times for things, and if you sit in that northwest corner, first of all, when the sun sets, it's blinding. You can't even see anything. And number two, when the wind comes, that wind comes off the ocean, then it becomes difficult to keep your napkins, et cetera, et cetera. So I ask these persons, these members, who are using theory or some emotional response, to please do your homework before you go broadcasting things which have to have time and effort to respond to. I've been there, done that, and I have the greatest empathy for this board, and you've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Darrell. Is there anybody else who would like to come up to the microphone?
One comment about the trash cans while we're bringing that. That project was one that I did, not because I have a dog, I don't. We have a grand dog that visits on occasion, but we have residents who asked for it. Those trash cans were bought in quantities of 3 to 4 apiece, and they certainly were not $900. There was a cost break because we bought the number that we did.
Thank you. Your name, please. And
Bruce Copeland. I live on Via Polita. I've been here since July with my wife. Couple comments, and then I'd like to have some interaction with your estimates that you have up there. First comment is, I don't know why we're arguing about a trash can. It's $850. For heaven's sakes, do it. Second comment is, you had read something from a lady who was 96 years old, and I believe there was a question in there. And the question was, doesn't she have the right for peace and quiet after serving this country for so long with some other veterans? And yes, they do have a right to that, and it sounds like you're addressing that, but I do want to make sure that the board goes to extra measures to provide that peace and quiet that that woman and those people who serve this country deserve.
thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Could you put up the estimate that has the $380,000 and the funds that are coming from the reserve, please?
Kara, Diane, can we get that?
Okay.
Can we get that first? I think that
Very
was
good.
that.
Is that better? Okay, so from what I'm hearing here, you have an estimate of $380,000. What is the date of that estimate?
Actually, am I on back there? Hello? We don't really have an estimate of $380,000.
Okay, could you stop there, please? So, but what I did hear in this conversation here was that if the quotes come above $380,000 that you're not going to proceed. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
That's correct.
So we're doing all of this based upon an estimate of $380,000. That is how old?
The bid that we actually had was 357,000, and that's probably
A year old?
A year old,
Okay.
yes.
I heard some other comments here that people had mailed in or emailed in and stuff, and they seem to have legitimate concerns about building materials and labor going up significantly in the last year there. And I'm very concerned. I think this is a great idea. I really support it. I think it's good for the community. But I'm very concerned that your $380,000 and your statement that you're going to cut it off and not do it if it exceeds that is going to kill a very worthwhile project. So I'd like to know what your plan is if it does go higher than $380,000.
Well, we have said right along we're going to stop at 380. If the bid came in at 383, we would probably go back and renegotiate that with the contractor first, because they know we will tell them we have a budget. If they can't build it for that, we're not going to do it.
Okay, so $350,000 more or less a year ago with building material costs up at least 15 to 20% in the last year already puts you above the 380. So I'm very concerned that a good project with good intentions may not proceed just because of increase in cost. So I really hope that you increase that 380 to a much higher level that will compensate for that.
My colleague up here would like to say something. Can you
Right.
turn on?
Maybe. Am I on? Yeah. I think from my perception that the 380 is not really an estimate of what the building's going to cost. Might be in the ballpark. We'll find out. But the 380 is all that we're willing to take from the equity fund to keep our equity fund at our intended strive for balance. So it's a double purpose number there, kind of.
My request is don't kill a good, decent project because you're going to go over your estimate. Maybe put a higher cap on it if you could, or a range. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Is there anybody else that would like to come up? Anybody else would like to come up to the?
Yeah.
Hello, folks. My name is Marilyn Phelps. I live on Corte Calanova. I've lived in the colony for 2 years, and I compliment you. You've done an excellent job presenting this. One of my questions was, what are the hours for quiet when an event takes place here and it's in an, I know there's a time limit of what is that time in the evening?
Well, the clubhouse closes at 10 o'clock.
Okay, 10 o'clock would be the maximum time any event would be taking place if this new facility is built,
Yes,
10
but-
o'clock.
But in an earlier conversation with fellow board member Tom Bracken, for the nights that there might be like dancing under the stars or the other activities, we would probably we would undoubtedly look at a 9
Oh,
o'clock
I
shut-off
see.
time.
Okay. So that's not a pat number, but I was curious because I do understand the people on the street adjacent they certainly do have their rights for quiet at certain times. I want to comment, the dues in the colony, I was in real estate, are quite nominal for all the excellent services we have been given. And for those people who do not realize that, they need to be aware that our dues are not excessive by any means.
Thank you.
I appreciate the fact that you're keeping the colony so beautiful. I think the idea of updating something to make it more appealing to new buyers is an excellent idea. And one other suggestion, I think possibly if you read those comments that people write, in the future you might ask them to limit the amount of their comments in words.
Thank you very much. Okay. Does anybody else have a yes, I see somebody in the back. Come on up, please.
Hello, my name is Pam Bliss, and I live on Via Tapadero. And I have a couple of questions. We've heard that there's going to be phase 1 and phase 2, and we've heard that through your meetings. So the $609,000 is for phase 1. What is projected for phase 2? My other question would be, why would we be spending $19,000 for a project manager when we will be hiring a general contractor who could interface with our general manager? Another thing is that I did not see anything that said that there was a do not exceed cap on the total cost. I saw a do not exceed cap on the amount that we would take from the equity fund, but not a total cap for the project. The other thing that is a concern is that you've noted that the modification to the pool fence was going to come out of reserve funds. That is not a reserve item. Reserves are for repair, maintenance, or replacement, and wouldn't we be taking a perfectly good pool fence and basically moving it, which would not really be a reserve fund item? So those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Are there any other questions or comments that you would like? Please come up, lady in the back there, or gentleman, sorry. I said that earlier. Before you begin, Pam, would you make sure that your 4 questions that you just asked get to Jim Morgan so we answer them next Tuesday night? Thank you. Okay. Thank you. To Jim Morgan. Thank you. Go ahead.
Janice Blair, 23897 Via Pamela. My questions are kind of minor. Assuming this goes ahead, what will the roof be made of? Is it likely to be the same as the patio cover at present that's rotted away? Or will you be maybe using alumina or something? And will the restroom include hot water? Seems a silly question, but the annex doesn't have hot water, and I have tried washing up in that sink numerous times. We have to boil water to be able to use hot water to wash up. And the water pressure is dreadful. You try washing your hands in that bathroom, you could stand there 10 minutes, you'd be singing happy birthday forever. So those are my 2 questions. I mean, I'm assuming that if it goes ahead, you will have hot water. And if you do that, please put it in the annex. Thank you.
Yeah, I can answer your first one. It's my indication that the roof or the dome will be aluminum wood, which would be different than what it is now. And I would certainly hope that we have pressurized hot water out there.
Well, no. The pool pavilion is tile roof.
But the new would be aluminum wood.
Yeah, you need to tell them that.
That's what I just said, isn't it?
I don't think they understood there's 2 different things.
The patio would be aluminum. But the building itself is tile.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, Jeff Sherburne. I'm kind of new here, but I'm not new to this industry. I'm not new to being on a board. I spent 5 years on a board up in Boise. And anyway, when I was looking at this project, I was very impressed, as has been mentioned before, the low dues. But one of my major concerns is these fingers. And I know that was mentioned earlier, but here's my opinion. I've been a realtor for 45 years, and I've been a developer on a 6th project in Idaho. And I think that we need to let go of this lawsuit because it's a nowhere deal, because the person's already in foreclosure, or not in foreclosure, but in receivership. And I think what we ought to do is go in without the attorneys and negotiate with the receiver and get a long-term lease or a lease in perpetuity, and then us take over the maintenance and have them maybe pay the water. And we need to clean these up. I mean, these are the biggest eyesore, and in my opinion, the most detrimental value-wise. I mean, the market's way up right now, but it won't always be. This bubble's going to burst. You know, it just does that. But I think we need to. That's one of our major concerns. I don't think this project is a bad project, and I think you folks are doing a great job of analyzing it. I do believe the costs are going to be higher than you think they are, because my son's a builder in Boise, and he just told me yesterday that his lumber went up 2.5 times from last year. So, and he's having trouble getting materials. That's his biggest concern, and he's got lots of build jobs, but he can't get materials on all the aspects. So you got that, and then you got a labor crunch because everybody's so busy building, and you're going to have a tough time getting good qualified subs. But I would be willing to be on a committee to go speak with the receiver or the owner and try to negotiate something. I think we need to be better neighbors with these folks. We've been on an adversarial position, and I spent my Marine Corps career in the courtroom, and attorneys used to talk about the billable hours and the deep pockets. We're the only deep pocket here. And here, we're spending a lot of money. I looked at the budgets. I'm very aware of budgets. I see a lot of money spent on attorney bills and going nowhere. I mean, what are we going to get from that? The fingers aren't going to be, they're having a struggle with the golf course now. All golf courses, I mean, every developer will tell you, and he did us a real favor by not having us own the golf course. Golf courses are losers. A lot of cities have to take them over all over the country. They're very hard. It's just a management situation. But so we're probably never going to get somebody to take care of those fingers out of their pocket. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Is there anybody else before we close this off? At this time, I'd like to, oh yes, come up, I'm sorry.
I promise I'll be brief, since this has to do about bathrooms, and I do have to use the bathroom. In the new structure, I'm curious, the annex has one stall. If we're going to be seating 100 people, or so, 80 perhaps, obviously we're going to have more than 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 stalls. Is it, and that's going to take up some of the 1,500 square feet. And also you mentioned storage. I was wondering how much storage you're going to need in addition to what we have out there now, and what would that storage be for? And that's just 2 quick questions. You guys have done a great job, and we miss you all. So anyway, move on, move forward. It's a good project. Okay. Thank you.
We will address those questions next week. Thank you. Kara, we have one more. Let her wipe down the mic.
Hi, Donna Fiorini. I live on Corte Peralta. Donna Fiorini. I live on Corte Peralta. One quick question, I'm kind of new. For the voting, do you need, I saw the numbers of 679 yeses or something.
794 yes.
Okay, that one. Do you need the specific number of yes votes? Do you need a specific number of no votes? Or if you just don't get the yes votes, it's a no?
It's a no.
It's a no, okay. And then you had read a question from someone, but I didn't hear the answer, or it was when the clubhouse was remodeled, that it had gone drastically over budget. How did we make up for that? What happened?
Okay, I'm going to respond to that when you're finished.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you. And I appreciate Mr. Hanson staying back there.
Talking to your mic.
I appreciate that question. One more question here? Come on up.
You can answer that one.
I'm Mary Detmers. I live on Corte Peralta. I've been a member of the Colony community for 11 wonderful years. I wanted to address the question of the overrun and the response we had when the clubhouse was remodeled. Everyone was aghast. But with careful and prudent management, we have recovered. The Colony is financially sound. We always have been. We've been well managed, and our association fees are much, much less than anything that's comparable. And I just want to give a big vote to the HOA and the board for your good job of keeping us afloat and keeping us up to date.
Thank you very, very much. Appreciate that. I know you've been very patient, and we'll be out of here in just a couple minutes. But I want to address a couple things, and I want to start with the clubhouse remodel. I have said numerous times that that project was driven by Darrell Hanson and certainly assisted by Greg Meeks. It was a phenomenal, smashing, overwhelming success. We left our mother's parlor and we moved into a 21st century facility. And while we may have, and Joanne, I thought, gave a great response at the last board meeting, and I think that response will be printed in the May newsletter. There's a number of ways to look at that. I do not believe that Greg Meeks or Darrell Hanson allowed anything to be an overrun. I think it's how you look at it. There was clearly an infrastructure 2 years ahead of time that was then put with an approved budget of about $650,000, which came in at 500 and some. What happened next is where I think all of the confusion exists. Shortly after Darrell's board left there in the new election of that year, a new board came in. There were some projects that were on the board that were going to take place over the next 12 to 18 months that were not a part of that 650. The board that came in decided, and I think showed good thinking. We already have all the contractors here, painters, electricians, everything else. Why not move those things up now and have a savings rather than wait 12 to 18 months? So in pure thought, if you want to say that's an overrun, okay. If you want to say that was prudent thinking by the board and we moved it up and probably had a 25, 35, 50,000 savings, okay. I really think it's a misnomer, though, to continue to beat the horse that that project came in over budget. Your board, previous boards, the management company, every penny is looked at. I will say here, there's not a single member of this board, to my knowledge, that handles any money. I believe that's correct. I don't believe any of us handle any money. So there's no benefit to us. What we're trying to do is to give you every penny's worth that we can get into that facility and what is now. That facility was wow factor number one. If you were here that day when the doors opened, there were nearly 1,200 people that flooded into this building. And as they came through the door, it was like, wow. There were 2 or 3 people, yes, and I heard them, that were violently opposed to what we did. And I have to be honest in saying that. But the overwhelming sentiment was, my gosh, what a change. I think that those are, whichever side you're on here, whatever side you're on is the right side for you. And nobody will ever argue. I do believe that this is a wow factor number 2. But you will decide. Every resident has one vote. We want you to seriously consider, you've heard many comments. We hope you've been given lots of food for thought. We hope you don't go out and just say no or yes, but that you really think of this facility. Is now the time to consider. If you think no, you vote no. If you think yes, all you're doing is giving the board the opportunity to go out and get 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 RFPs. That's all. That does not guarantee, I will say it again, getting a yes vote does not mean this will be built. It means we just get some additional information, which we will share with you immediately. I think you've seen today we're very transparent. We want to continue to be that way. We need your help in that. Again, thank you for being here with us. We look forward to seeing you maybe next Tuesday. Godspeed to all of you, and have a wonderful evening.
Yeah. You gotta go?
No, I think we gained people. I think we gained.
I didn't get a ticket.
We don't, board doesn't get tickets. All right, here we go. And as we've done before, I'm just going to read the numbers. So the last person has the number, come up and get this. It starts out 9, 8, 0, 8, 9, 2. Is that person here? If that person's not here, I'm going to draw another number. Anybody 9-2? Okay, another number. Here it goes. Last 3 numbers should be 905. 905. That person here? Hearing none, seeing none. Next number. New number. 880. 880. Going once, going twice. We have a winner? Come on up here. There we go. Fix.